Thank you for coming today to this webinar workshop. My name is Nancy Tarlow. I've been a chiropractor for over 30 years, and I discovered a lot of things in practice, and I wanted to share that with you because I feel like there's a lot of people struggling out there. There's a lot of people in this chronic fight or flight. They don't know how to get better. And I feel like, and I'm just as guilty of this as anybody else, supplement, supplement, supplement. I'll just take a million supplements. I'm going to feel better. And a lot of people are missing something basic. So that's why I wanted to share this with everybody. Disclaimer, this program is for educational purposes only. The information shared is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease, as not a substitute for individualized medical care. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making changes to your health routine. So we're going to be doing this in a little bit. We're going to do some practice exercises, and this is what we're going to work on today, but I have to lay the groundwork for that. So I just want to let you know that's where we're going to in about 20 minutes. Um, Also, I want to let you know there's going to be a little gift for those who make it to the end. Hopefully, it won't be too torturous. And so we'll share that later. I'm hoping that you had a chance to fill in these forms. These forms are really important because they're going to give you a way to measure how you're doing. So the stress checklist is, print one out now, and then at the end of 4 weeks, print out another one and see what things have changed. I would be shocked if there wasn't a change because I find when people work on their nervous system, they really start to feel better. So print one out, circle anything that you feel, that you can relate to. The stress awareness is you're going to circle every area where you're feeling pain or stress and rated on a scale 1 to 10. 1 is mild, 10 is severe. And then the wellness journal, I think journaling is really important. And if you want to just use a notebook that you bought at Staples and use this as a guideline for things to measure, because if your heart rate, for instance, is elevated, if you follow the things that I'm suggesting, you'd be shocked to see that your heart rate starts again to a normal level, your blood pressure starts to get normal. Skin temperature, they actually sell these little devices on Amazon that will measure your skin temperature. And it's important if you can get one. Also, a mood ring will work because a mood ring is basically measuring the temperature of your skin and that will change the color. So if you have a mood ring and the color is blue or green, that's very good. That means your nervous system's in good shape. If it's red, that means you're very stressed. And if it's black, you better, make funeral arrangements. I mean, I don't need to make light of it, but black is someone who's exhausted. They have such a exhausted nervous system. And, also the hands and the feet will see dry or moist. They're moist generally with someone who has more of an acute stress, and the longer someone's had chronic stress, their hands actually get very dry. So you see a lot of people looking for a great hand cream. I haven't used a hand cream in probably 15 years because my nervous system's in really good shape. But prior to that, I actually had 40 years of poor sleep. I had moderate depression. I had 5 years of daily anxiety attacks, and my hands and my feet were like ice cubes. And then I finally figured out how to heal myself, and the depression went away. I started sleeping great. The anxiety attacks went away in about 4 weeks of working with this daily. So it was pretty profound. So please, print out these forms and use them. Um, So, common contributors to chronic nervous system stress. And, I could probably, make 3 or 4 slides just for this, but I try to pick the ones that are, you know, most serious and most common. And we're all living with emotional stress and mental overload. I actually stopped watching TV about 15 or 20 years ago because I realized it was really feeding my stress. And emotional stress could be, you're fighting with a loved one, and maybe some relationships aren't very good. EMF exposure is something that most people don't realize the effect that EMFs have on their body until they figure out a way to minimize their EMF exposure. Brainwave imbalance, if you're living under chronic stress, your brain's going to be stuck in a beta mode versus uh, alpha, which is, when you see people meditating or deep in prayer, they have been able to increase their alpha brainwaves. That's the brainwave state. When we're feeling good, that's where serotonin gets released. So all these pieces, they're all pieces of a puzzle. And the reason why you don't want to ignore this is these are the things that happen or can happen when you have chronic stress, months, years, people start to get really sick. So we see weight gain, fatigue. Fatigue is probably the most common one for everybody. We see anxiety, autoimmune disorders, GI problems. A lot of people experience either chronic constipation or diarrhea, or they go back and forth. I think one of the issues that people maybe see quickly is how their brain is working. They have difficulty with memory and learning. They can't process information the way they used to. Their pain tolerance is low, so they feel pain very quickly. They have a lot of problems getting into a deep sleep, and that's important because when we get into a deep sleep, that's when our body restores itself. That's when we need that rest and restore. We need that rest and digest. We need our body to be able to digest our food well. And that can only happen with deep sleep. So, first thing I'm going to touch on briefly is EMF. There have been many studies done showing the effect of EMF, and we're just bombarded with it. And I have a form for anybody that's interested. Message me in the Blueprint to Heal Facebook group. I have a form that lists all the potential EMF exposures that we have, smart appliances, smart meters, the smart meters are actually a really big way that we're getting EMF. People are wearing cell phones on their body. I know people who have 2 cell phones. They got a work cell phone and a personal cell phone. If you start just by turning the router off at night, turning off all your devices at night. I actually have something that my computer is sitting on that keeps the EMF from going into me from the laptop. There are like Havin, HAVN, they were formerly called LAMS. They have shirts, they have beanie caps, they have baseball caps. My husband swears by his. He said his focus is much better. He feels less stress when he's wearing his hat. I even got my daughter to wear a shirt when she goes to school that has this built in. I think there's like silver strands that help protect you from the EMF. I know they also have bras and underwear. So for me, it makes a huge difference. I don't keep my cell phone near me at night. I turn it off. I don't charge it by my bed. And also for me, when I go and stay in a hotel, I don't sleep because I just cannot deal with all the EMF. So I do what I can when I can, and it does make a difference. Now, what happens with chronic fight or flight is the adrenals get stressed. So imagine for a second that you're, in the forest and you come across a lion, our body goes into survival mode. And survival mode looks like, well, we got to run or we got to fight. So if we're running, our body needs to shift blood to, all the organs, to the brain, to the heart and the lungs, because they are the most important. Our eyes, our brain, those are the areas that are most important. Now the body's pumping out adrenaline to keep us going. So what happens is if we're under stress all the time, so when the stressor's gone, our body returns back to normal, or it should. But let's say we're under stress every day. Let's say we have a job that we hate. Let's say we're in a difficult marriage and we're just constantly feeling stressed. Let's say you have a child who's got severe illness. You're just constantly trying to figure out how to help your child get better. And that causes the adrenals to get stressed. And a lot of people want to just, throw a lot of supplements at it. But if your nervous system has been what's called dysregulated for a while, it may not be able to utilize the supplements. And again, this is a big mistake a lot of people make. So I have some answers for you that we'll talk about in this webinar, but something like legs up the wall is a great thing to help specifically the adrenals. There's also something called supported child's pose, where you stack up some blankets and you get into child's pose and you just rest. That's great for the adrenals. So as I mentioned a couple here, grounding, walking in nature. And one of the worst things to do if you have adrenals that are in chronic stress, if you're feeling exhausted, what do? We eat the chocolate, we're doing caffeine, we're doing the sugar, but it just keeps this vicious cycle going. It's kind of like burning a candle at both ends, right? And I understand feeling the need for it, but if you can just go without it and try to substitute it for something else, that then your adrenals can start to heal. These are a few things that really help restore nervous system balance. There's several chiropractic techniques specifically that help activate what's called the parasympathetics or the vagus nerve. So it immediately gets you out of fight or flight. You start to feel like you can breathe deeper, calmer, you feel more relaxed. It's a very gentle technique. Upper cervical is another one that is only activating the parasympathetics. So the parasympathetics are at the very top of the spine and at the very bottom of the spine. So in between that is what's called the sympathetics. So find a chiropractor that will do something called Logan Basic, network spinal technique, upper cervical, corn specific technique. Those are all really great techniques for helping to regulate the vagus nerve and activate it. Humming, singing softly, deep belly breaths, grounding, walking in nature. Again, I threw in avoiding the stimulants here because I think it's that important. Coffee, sugar, MSG. If I go out to eat and I don't ask if there's MSG, I cannot sleep that night. I am that sensitive to chemicals. I don't use sugar at all. Coffee, caffeine, of course, is in chocolate. And what do we crave when we're feeling like crap? We crave chocolate. And I'm just as guilty of that as everybody else. I just, I don't buy it because if it's here, I'm going to eat it. Tension tamer is a fabulous tea to use when you're feeling stressed. I think it's from Celestial Seasonings, and I think you can only buy it in bulk. I can't find it in the local stores, but it's got a combination of herbs that work great. Chamomile's another one. Deep sleep, praying, meditate, solfeggio frequencies, brainwave entrainment, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and biofeedback. And we're going to do a separate session on biofeedback because you can learn how to do biofeedback on yourself. It takes a lot of work. It's a lot easier to go to somebody who does biofeedback. What I'm going to teach in a few weeks is not as sophisticated, but there are things you can do on your own. So why healing the brain should be first? Because most of us that are feeling stress, we're living in this constant fight, flight, or freeze. And that means the organs are not functioning optimally. We kind of touched on the heart tending to have a rapid heart rate, the lungs, you see short, shallow breaths, GI gets affected. And the problem is that if you ignore it, it's not going to get better. And I think we live in a world where we want to ignore stuff. We just want to get better. We want to go to the beach, which is great. I'm now living very close to the beach, and I immediately feel relaxation when I do that. But not everybody can do that. There are some people that, maybe I used to live in outside Philadelphia. It's an hour and a half from the beach. So I wasn't just going to drop everything and go. So it's important to have tools that you can use that can help you regulate your nervous system so you can start healing. So, um, so we're going to get started now on a couple of the exercises. So I'm going to ask you to not take notes. I want you to just take this in. This is being recorded. I'm happy to share this with you later, and then you can make your notes then. But right now, I really want you to feel this in your body. I want you to sit quietly. If you can, if you have TV on the background, just turn everything off and just listen to what I'm going to be walking you through. If you can lie down, that's even better. So first, I want you to start at your feet. So what you're going to look for is, where do you feel either stress or pain? Because not everybody is, some people have a high pain tolerance, so they can't register it as pain, but they can feel stress. So I want you to start at the bottom of your feet, and I want you to see if they're tight. We tend to clench our jaw, and we tend to tighten up our fists and our feet when we're under chronic stress. So think about your feet. Think about the back of your legs, your thighs, your hamstrings, your quadriceps, so the front of the thigh. See if you feel any tightness there. Now I want you to move up to your belly. Do you feel tightness in your belly or your solar plexus? Do you feel tightness there? People that feel like they've been kicked in the stomach will tend to feel it in their solar plexus. So if they've been, have some emotional wounds, if they've been hurt by somebody very deeply, they're going to feel that in their solar plexus. Now move up to your chest. Notice your breath. Are you breathing from your belly or are you breathing from your chest? Breathing from the belly actually helps stimulate the vagus nerve. Breathing from the chest just keeps us in that fight or flight response. Now I want you to go to your hands. Are your hands closed or do they feel nice and open? Are they loose? One thing for me is when I'm under stress, I clench my, as I mentioned, my jaw, and I clench my hands. And just by opening them up, I feel better. So are your hands loose? Do they feel relaxed? What about your biceps? Are they relaxed? And your shoulders? Many times I see with people with chronic stress, their shoulders are up near their ears. That's part of that running from the tiger. We're getting into a position where we're protecting ourselves. Is your chest open or are you protecting your heart? Are your shoulders coming towards your heart or are they open? And I want you to really think about where you're feeling everything. Now, move into your neck. Does your neck feel tight? Do you have chronic neck pain? And let's now go into the head. So your jaw, does it tend to be tight? If you were to take your fingers and put them on your jaw, is it tender? Does it feel tight? Can you open your mouth fully or is it restricted? And then right above your ears, there's this muscle called the temporalis for people that are, chronic, TMJ issues or, people that clench a lot, grind their teeth. That muscle tends to be very tender. And do you feel pain anywhere else in your head? I find that, again, people with a lot of chronic stress, all the muscles in their head seem to be tight. Okay, now I want to go back to your feet, and I want you to, if you want to, with your hands, touch the areas that are tight gently with your thumbs. Work your way up from your heel to your toes, and just gently, work out those muscles. Pull on your toes. So you might hear like a little pop. Now go to the back of your legs, first your calf muscles, and massage them gently as you move up from your ankles towards your knees. You could even do one side versus the other and pull them, feel like you're pulling your muscles apart, gently to really open up those calf muscles. And then move up to your quadriceps. And again, use your thumbs, use, the whole thumb, not just the tip of the thumb, and work on those muscles and work on relaxing them. And now let's come to the belly. So for the belly, I'm going to suggest using your breath. Do some deep, slow breaths and feel like you're just opening up that belly, the lower part of the belly. Just use your breath to help open that area up. You should start to feel more relaxed, even in other areas that you haven't worked on yet. That should start feeling better. And now move up to your lungs. Put your hands over your chest. And as you breathe in, picture your lungs like the whole rib cage moving out. So you really want to open that up. Give your lungs more space. And then come up a little farther to your shoulders. I tend to hold a lot of stress in my shoulders. So work on those muscles, one side and then the other. See if it feels different. Maybe one side's tighter than the other. And just, use all, your whole hand to really just open up your shoulders. I like doing this with a partner. Have the partner sit in front of you and you just work on those muscles and it feels so good. And if it doesn't, if it hurts, either you're going too hard, they're going too hard, or you're just, can't take a lot. So just adjust it so it feels good. And now work on your neck. So start at the base of your skull and go down the back of your neck. Be careful on the side because we got the carotid artery, so you don't want to do both sides at the same time. So just do one versus the other. And then come to the jaw and you, in a circular motion, work on the muscles in the jaw. And there's even muscles right below the jaw on the bottom. And if you start at where the angle of the jaw is and you come forward, well, again, a lot of people who have TMJ issues, these muscles are incredibly tight. So just work on loosening those up. And then go to the area above your ears, work on the temporalis. Again, you're going to use the circular motion. If it's really tender, then just hold it. And you may find what's called a trigger point, which is like one little spot in the muscle that's really tender. If you hold it, all of a sudden the muscle will relax. And one thing you'll notice is you'll be able to open your mouth more when you get done doing this. And then you're going to work on your head. You're going to find those areas that are tight And you're just going to work on very gently opening it up. I mean, I don't know about you, but one of my favorite things about going to the hairstylist is when I get my hair washed, assuming that they're good at it. To me, there's nothing like getting that done. Now, while we're at the head, I want you to feel in the top center, there's a little bony prominence in the center part of the top of the head. If you go just forward of that, there's an acupuncture point. And if you stimulate that, that can help you feel really relaxed. I use that on my dog when he's freaking out from, loud noises. And so it even works on your animals, that acupuncture point. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to use breath work to help turn on that relaxation response. So lying on your back, you can do it sitting, but it's a lot harder to do this sitting. So if you can lie on your back, put both palms on your belly. If you have a heavy, heavy book, that's even better. But put both palms pushing down on the lower part of your belly. And as you breathe in, you want to push your hands towards the ceiling. And as you breathe out, you want that to come back towards your spine. So you're going to use a 4-4-6-6 breath. If you can, I don't want you to stress out if you can't do that, but four, in on a count of four. So breathe in very slowly in a count of four, and then hold it for a count of four. And as you breathe out, that should be a count of six if you can do it. If not, start with the count of four. So do 4-4-4-4. At the end, you'll hold it for a count of four. Now, the longer breath you can take in and out, the more you can stimulate that vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve pierces the diaphragm. So when you're doing that deep breath in, you're stretching the diaphragm and you're activating the vagus nerve. It's pretty cool. It's one of my favorite things to do when I'm feeling stressed. So once you've been doing that long enough, then you can do that in addition to thinking of areas that you're feeling, you're stressing your body and focusing on those areas getting released. I'm at the point now where if I'm feeling tightness in a part of my body, I do my deep breath work and then I can touch the areas that feel tight and they immediately relax. So this is a great exercise to work on. Again, do it in combination with the areas that you're feeling stressed. And then the last exercise I'm going to teach you today is, I mean, I don't want to set this up, but I find this to be very difficult. So hopefully you won't find it to be difficult. But if you do find it difficult, I want you to keep working at it because it will change your breath. And breath work has been found through lots of studies to be incredible for helping the body, release that relaxation response, to get the vagus nerve activated, to get you out of that dysregulation that may be causing a lot of health problems. So what you're going to do is, and you can do this sitting or lying down, you're going to start with one hand on your belly and one on your solar plexus. And I want you to take a breath in first on your belly. Breathe in and out 2 or 3 times. And then you're going to go to the solar plexus. And I want to see if you can push your hand forward as you try to breathe into your solar plexus, which is where the diaphragm is. We really want you to become aware of that diaphragm. So try that once or twice and then move up to the chest. Now, what I found interesting is I've actually been doing this exercise with patients for 25 to 30 years. And some people just, they're in a stressed out state, but they can't seem to breathe into their chest when they want to. So work on this, work on the belly, the solar plexus, and the chest. So you're going to do these deep breaths. And again, with the when you're doing the chest, you want to think about your rib cage moving out to the side. So a lot of times you can see if someone else is, you can identify them as someone with chronic stress, is if they tend to raise their shoulders when they breathe in. And it's all like up. That's not what you want to be doing because that's going to keep you in that fight or flight. So initially, if that's the way you're breathing now, just focus on pulling your shoulders down as you breathe in and out. So it's about finding what works for you. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so we're done with the educational part, and I want to offer you this special gift. This is the tool that helped change my life. It's an app. Within 6 to 8 weeks, I totally resolved my sleep issues after 40 years depression, 5 years of daily anxiety attacks. And if you message me, I will send you the link for a free 30-day trial. You can't find it if you just go to their website. I've been working with this company since January 2012. So I had the ability to offer this. But you will immediately feel your brain become more focused. You're going to feel your whole body relax. It's going to also help you get into a deeper sleep. For me, I was sleeping through the night after about 4 or 5 weeks. I had never slept, as far as I remember, for more than an hour or two at a night. You're going to start dreaming, and it also releases serotonin. So this is a wonderful app. I am not suggesting you stop doing these other things that we talked about, the grounding and changing your diet. I'm not suggesting you stop any of those things. But if you've been under a lot of stress for a long time, it can be very difficult to make those changes. This app, even if you just take advantage of this 4 week free trial, it's going to help you utilize the tools that not only what I shared today, but I'll also be showing over the next few weeks. So please consider it. I just love it. So it's called Brain Tap. There's the link for the free trial. But again, if you message me in Blueprint to Heal, I'm happy to send you that link. And future sessions. So I like to keep these about a half an hour for the educational part and then open it up to questions. These are what future sessions are going to include. Next time, Anne-Marie Cantrell is going to be talking about rhythms and harnessing the power of your hands and acupressure points. As I mentioned, I'm going to be talking about biofeedback. I'm going to also be sharing over the course of the next month smaller videos because I believe that if I throw too much information at you, it gets to be overwhelming. So I'd rather chunk down that information, give it to you in bits and pieces, start practicing it, start noticing how you feel. The journal is to really determine what works for you. Maybe grounding is all you need to do and walking in nature, but it's really about what's best for you. What do you notice? Because we are unique, and what helps me may not help you. And in a few weeks, we'll also be talking about supplements once we get you out of that chronic fight or flight. So thank you. And I am going to stop the recording.